shocking secret revealed. A young girl's incredible words turn a millionaire's life upside down. Lucy stood at the front of the shelter's worn-out common room, her heart racing as she faced the familiar faces of her friends and neighbors. The scent of cheap coffee lingered in the air, mingling with the dust that swirled in the afternoon light. She could sense the weight of their struggles, yet it fueled her determination. "We need each other," she began, her voice barely masking the tremor of anxiety. "Mentorship can change lives, but we must lift one another up even on our worst days." Her eyes shone with fervor, even as her stomach twisted with doubt. Did they hear her? Would her words matter? In that moment, Thomas Gray lurked in the shadows, a solitary figure against the backdrop of hope and longing. The billionaire felt a pull toward her passion, an instinct that made his world feel uncomfortably fragile. Although the lives he built behind gilded walls had become a fortress against emotional vulnerability, Lucy's conviction pierced through. He recalled every betrayal, every heartache. Part of him loathed the little girl standing defiantly, rattling the foundations of his carefully crafted solitude. Yet, he couldn't look away. She was a living contradiction to his existence. The crumbling streets, the community's murmur of laughter and tears, he felt an unfamiliar pang of longing for something he had long avoided. And somehow, it all radiated from a 12-year-old girl, but Lucy could feel the creeping fear that accompanied her aspirations. What if she failed to inspire? What if this was just another dream destined for the depths of despair? Her hands trembled as the silence enveloped her confidence. She hesitated, the threads of hope tugging at her heart while the shadows of doubt whispered words she feared to confront. Was this connection that flickered between them genuine? She couldn't shake the worry that his wealth overshadowed his intentions. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The air felt thick with the unspoken. Thomas felt the prick of guilt as Lucy turned back to her audience, her words now carrying a different weight. As she spoke, her courage poured forth like the coffee they couldn't always afford, an elixir of hope in bitter times. But staring at her, he couldn't ignore the inner battle that raged within him. Was he willing to break down his walls, to step beyond the confines of his privilege? What did that even mean in a world so fraught with inequity? But then, as Lucy poured her heart out, a flash of anxiety struck her like lightning. Her mother had been absent for too long, and with a sudden realization, panic set in. An unexpected health emergency loomed over them like a dark cloud, threatening to shatter their fragile existence. With mounting dread, Lucy's spirit wavered as reality pressed down on her with relentless force. Her voice faltered, the dream she'd nurtured felt impossibly distant, and yet, between them a connection forged under duress, burning with possibility but marred by trepidation. Would Thomas risk everything he had for this girl who ignited a fire in his cold heart? As the storm of emotions swirled around them, the path ahead felt murky. What choices awaited? Each second ticked by, heavy with uncertainty, as their fates connected irreversibly, poised on the brink of revelation. Lucy's heart raced as she navigated the turmoil swirling in her mind. The weight of her mother's absence shoved against her ribs, forcing each breath to be a reminder of her vulnerability. Words that once flowed easily now lodged in her throat, leaving her teetering on the precipice of despair. This was her chance to shine, a chance to grip hope and catalyze change. But what if, instead, it became her undoing? As she scanned the faces in the room, some familiar, often supportive, others blank or turned away, she understood they were all grappling with their battles. The little girl who wanted to be a beacon suddenly felt like a castaway. She took a breath, shaky but necessary, and pushed through the electric silence. In every storm, we can choose to be the light. We can be the change. But it takes courage, and it takes commitment. Will you stand with me? The flicker in Thomas's eyes did not go unnoticed. There was a fire in his core awakened by her spirit and unexpected reciprocation of the need he buried deep inside. Was this the moment he could begin to dismantle the walls around his heart? Lucy searched for inspiration, grappling with the need for her voice to matter more than ever. The truth weighed heavy. She not only had her dreams in mind, she had others' dreams to hold. Her mind flashed back to those late nights spent gathering food for the shelter, ensuring her friends had a warm meal to return to, all while her mother was swallowed in her own darkness. Maybe if she poured her heart into this fight, she could inspire not just herself but the people around her. It was a flicker of hope amidst swirling despair. As she finished speaking, she found herself staring at Thomas. His presence felt different now, almost haunting. Could he be the mentor she craved? The mentor who could guide her through the chaos lurking on the horizon. Thomas, her voice trembled but did not falter. Will you help us? Slowly, his expression shifted, the lines of his face softening. The initial disdain receded, replaced with a blend of curiosity and possibility. You can't do this alone, Lucy, he said, his tone surprisingly gentle. But if you want my help, you'll have to meet me halfway. Her pulse quickened. This was the doorway she had anticipated but feared. What do you mean? I want to see if you can truly commit. This isn't just about words, this is about action and responsibility, he replied, drawing her into his gaze. A challenge hung in the air, something to seize and mold. Everything is at stake, she whispered, almost to herself. But it was a commitment she could no longer deny. The world around them fell away, leaving only the charged atmosphere between them. Did she harbor the resilience needed to rise in the face of life's harshest tests? Questions began to swirl, the simplicity of clarity appeared eroded beneath layers of complexity. Meet me tomorrow after school, Thomas instructed, his demeanor shifting from contemplation to resolve. If you're serious about this, come prepared. A tight knot of anxiety blossomed in Lucy's chest. Meeting with a billionaire? The stakes felt monumental. She had wanted this opportunity, but now it echoed with the weight of consequence. Prepare for what? She asked, her voice laced with both trepidation and exhilaration. You'll find out, he said, a slight smirk creeping across his lips. But trust me, you'll need to bring everything you have. As she left the shelter that day, a turbulent mix of anticipation and dread wrestled within her. The shadows of doubt whispered again, but buried beneath the uncertainty was a flicker of belief. She felt a subtle shift within, a spark of potential igniting a willingness to move forward no matter the outcome. What awaited her tomorrow? It loomed ahead, a figure wrapped in mystery, beckoning her to confront her destiny. The next morning, Lucy awoke before dawn, a restless energy buzzing through her system. Thoughts raced about her impending meeting with Thomas, sleek images colliding with moments of self-doubt. As she stared at her reflection in the mirror, she let the questions pour in. Was she ready for this? Could she really make an impact? Her mother's absence echoed in her mind like a haunting refrain, reminding her of all the reasons she needed to succeed. Determined, Lucy donned the only blazer she owned, an oversized garment that had once belonged to her mother. The fabric, slightly worn and faded, felt heavy on her shoulders, but it also bloomed with a sense of responsibility. She could almost hear her mother's voice whisper encouragement, fueling her resolve. Arriving at school, Lucy felt the admiring glances of her peers, which only intensified her uncertainty. They saw an ambitious girl, but internally, she grappled with feelings of inadequacy. As the clock ticked closer to the end of the day, she thumbed through her notes as if seeking solace in the written words. Yet, the shower of doubt kept threatening to drown her spirit. Finally, the dismissal bell rang, sending a burst of adrenaline through her veins. She made her way to the designated location, an upscale coffee shop that felt worlds apart from the shelter. The sleek surfaces and rich aromas enveloped her, an intimidating but enticing atmosphere. When she spotted Thomas at a table tucked in a corner, the tension in her chest resumed its hold. He was scanning through documents, his brow furrowed in an expression of focus. She approached hesitantly, each step challenging the uncertainty that churned inside her. I'm here, she announced, trying to imbue her words with confidence. Good, he replied, lifting his gaze. His expression was inscrutable, as if he was measuring her with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. Let us not waste time. First, I want you to think about what you truly desire to accomplish today. Was he serious? I want to inspire others to change their lives. I want to create a movement of hope, she stammered, unsure if her words resonated. Ambitious. He leaned back, arms crossed, a bemused smirk playing on his lips. But tell me, what does that really mean for you? How are you actively going to do it? The unexpected query forced her to pause, sending her spiraling into reflection. They weren't mere platitudes, they were choices demanding action, a personal commitment beyond aspirations. I need to organize resources and, well, maybe a plan to address their needs effectively. But I'm still figuring out the details. That's the first step, Thomas replied, his voice serious. But there's more. You need to learn what's really at stake. Today, we're not just going to talk, we're going to strategize. He pushed a folder across the table filled with documents, financial reports, community needs assessments, complex papers that made her stomach churn. Lucy flipped through the pages, her brain racing to comprehend the information. It unveiled challenges. People were relying on resources that were scarce. This is too much for me. How can I handle this? By realizing you're already part of a larger conversation. You're not just a girl with dreams, you're a potential leader navigating a storm. But more importantly, what about your own dreams? Why do you want to create this change? His words lashed at her insecurities, triggering a blend of inspiration and panic. The realization echoed within her: this wasn't just about changing lives, it also involved a reckoning with herself. Because I have to. Lucy's eyes sparkled with determination. I have to prove that I can do something meaningful, for my mother, for those counting on me. Thomas's gaze held an odd flicker, like admiration mingled with a challenge. Then show me you can act under pressure. Start planning, high stakes today. With those words, the weight shifted in Lucy's mind, channeling her uncertainty towards a purpose. The rest of the coffee shop faded into a blur as she focused on the task at hand. There was no turning back now, every ounce of her would have to fuel this fight, uncovering the layers of her potential as she delved into the task. But as she unfolded the papers, a chilling thought crept in: what if she wasn't ready for the truths she was about to uncover? Just then, Thomas leaned closer, his voice low and deliberate. There's someone I need you to meet next. It might change everything. Lucy's heart quickened. What could he possibly mean? And who was this person? The mystery hung thick in the air, pulling her into an unexpected realm of new challenges waiting to be tackled. The folder lay before Lucy, now a chaotic blend of facts and possibilities. She struggled to extract coherence from the documents, each statistic pressing against her like an insurmountable barrier. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, igniting a fierce yearning for clarity. Thomas's challenge still reverberated in her mind, stoking a flame of urgency within her. Act under pressure, she muttered to herself. Maybe that's how she would find her way forward. Lucy took a breath, closing her eyes momentarily. She needed to sift through the confusion and grapple with strategies that could inspire others. Clarity within. Clarity without. What are you thinking? Thomas interrupted her reverie, lifting an eyebrow as if he were inspecting her readiness for battle. I need to break it down, she said finally. Identify the most pressing needs first. Her voice trembled slightly, but there was a spark within her burgeoning confidence. If I can focus on tangible steps, then maybe I might be able to inspire change. He nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. That's more like it. Use the reports to see what's working and what isn't. There's always a way in, but it requires grit. The challenge of facing hard truths beckoned like a siren song, and for the first time, Lucy realized that tackling discomfort could serve as the fulcrum of her journey. The mere act of dissecting problems lit a fire in her. She pivoted toward the reports, scanning data points, demographics, resource allocation, historical challenges. The layers piled high, but doubt twisted itself into determination. Okay, she said, beginning to harness this momentum. If we concentrate on skill development for people in our community, we can actually create self-sustaining change. They won't just be waiting for help, they could be empowered to help themselves. Smart, Thomas replied, nodding appreciatively. Empowerment is crucial, but how do you plan on implementing that? Maybe workshops? Her heart raced with the prospect. We could get mentors involved, people who have turned their situations around. They might share their skills. It could be inspiring. Great start, Thomas interjected, leaning closer, intrigued. But there's one thing your proposal is missing. What is going to motivate these individuals to engage? Why should they believe in your vision? His question sent another wave of hesitance through her. The demeanor of the individuals she'd grown up around often appeared jaded, they had no faith in change. The thought scraped against her determination like jagged glass. I need to connect with them first, she admitted through gritted teeth. I have to make them see that they have a stake in their own futures. Exactly. Thomas leaned back, recognizing the transformation brewing within her. Before she could bask in her revelation, an increasingly familiar cold grip of anxiety coiled back into her thoughts. Also, about the person you mentioned? Lucy hesitated, biting her lip, the urgency settling back onto her shoulders like an unwelcome cloak. Who are they? How can they possibly help me? Someone with experience and perspective, he said cryptically, his eyes narrowing, but there's a catch, you need to convince them of your plans first. No prep work, just your raw passion. They respond best to authenticity. Visions of facing this person, whoever they were, brought back the familiar twinge of fear. What if she faltered? What if her resolve wasn't enough? Yet, she couldn't deny the surge of adrenaline coursing through her body, urging her to step into the unknown. Is this a test of sorts? She blurted out, her eyes narrowing as realization washed over her. Thomas merely smiled, his expression unreadable. Lucy felt the edges of her world shifting again, drawn to the brink of an abyss where she would either rise or plunge into despair. Would she be ready? As she grasped the folder tighter, a sudden thought jolted her, this journey was compounding. She wasn't merely bridging the gaps for others, she was forging connections to her own intrinsic power. If she could face this unknown, what she could find might reshape everything she believed about herself. All right, she breathed with conviction, I'll do it. Good, Thomas said quietly, scanning the room for eavesdroppers. We'll meet this person tomorrow. Be prepared. They're not easy to impress. Churning emotions fought within Lucy, battling her fear, but an ember of excitement flared. She would rise to the occasion. As the thought settled, another one began to emerge. What if this unexpected encounter held the key to untangling the complexities of her dreams? And what if this person turned out to be someone from her past, intertwining her journey of self-discovery with a legacy she wasn't yet ready to confront? The night before the meeting, Lucy lay in bed, her mind tempestuous and restless. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting her thoughts into a chaotic web of potential outcomes. There was more than just fear, it was suffused with a resolve to confront whatever awaited her. She contemplated her plan, sifting through fragments of conversations, voices rising and falling in her memory. Doubt crept in, whispering fears of inadequacy. What could she possibly say that would resonate with someone so experienced? What if her passion fell flat against their skepticism? She recalled Thomas's words about authenticity and was reminded that this was her chance to break through self-imposed barriers. Her heart raced as she envisioned the encounter. Imagining their face, the way they might scrutinize her, she steered her thoughts back to her vision, a future filled with skill workshops and empowered individuals. Focusing on this purpose grounded her, reminding her why she had embarked on this journey in the first place. Morning dawned, bringing with it the promise of clarity or chaos. Dressed in her favorite blazer, a vibrant shade that matched her determination, Lucy stared at her reflection, searching for the poised professional she aspired to be. Every creased shirt, every well-combed hair reminded her of the stakes. She wasn't just addressing a mentor, she was presenting a vision. The location of the meeting was an unassuming cafe, teeming with patrons, a stark contrast to the gravity of her intentions. As she entered, noise and warmth enveloped her, creating a brew of energy that heightens tension and possibility alike. Scanning the room, her breath caught when she spotted a familiar silhouette, Claire, her mentor from years ago, a woman from Lucy's past she hadn't expected to see again. "Lucy," Claire greeted, her voice rich with surprise and a hint of something more. "I didn't expect to meet you here." "Neither did I," Lucy replied, trying to mask the flutter of nerves that now threatened to derail her composure. The weight of the past teetered on a fragile line between familiarity and discomfort. "How have you been? Still chasing dreams?" Claire asked, a quirk of curiosity lighting her expression. "Yes," Lucy stated firmly, taking the opportunity to weave her story through the inquiry. "It's just the hurdles feel more daunting now." "Show me," Claire challenged, her brow raising slightly. "What are you working towards?" Here it was the moment of truth. Lucy swallowed hard, her pulse quickening. This was her chance to articulate her vision, to convince Claire not just with passion, but with depth. "I believe that we have to create opportunities for skill development among those who feel disillusioned," she replied, each word assertive, yet tinged with anticipation. "I want to empower them to become the change they wish to see." Claire leaned back, playing with her coffee cup, eyeing Lucy with direct intensity. "Empowerment is a buzzword. What makes you believe you can actually inspire that belief in them?" The question hung heavy in the air, and Lucy felt vulnerability wash over her. "I know it's a challenge," she began carefully, "but I grew up among them. I understand their struggles, the weariness, and I want to be someone who can guide them through that." There it was, her authenticity, her raw vulnerability laid bare like an open wound. Would it be enough? Claire gazed at her, searching, assessing. A moment stretched painfully long, dense with implications. "You have passion," Claire said finally, pulling back the layers around her guarded expression. "But passion without strategy is a risk, Lucy. Are you ready to accept that some may not respond favorably? That some may challenge you, even push back?" "Yes," Lucy stated, feeling a shock of clarity surge through her. "But I realize now that my growth depends on navigating those challenges instead of avoiding them." Claire's eyes flickered with recognition, as if a forgotten part of her was awakened. "Okay," she replied, nodding with newfound respect. "I see potential in you. But let us test your mettle. I'll use my connections to help you secure mentors, but you'll have to prove this vision is sustainable. Can you handle the scrutiny?" Lucy's stomach flipped. This wasn't just a matter of proving herself in front of Claire but laying a foundation for everything she wanted to become. "Yes," she asserted, emboldened by the challenge. As they continued to discuss ideas and strategies, Lucy felt the tide of her fears ebb away, replaced with the thrill of possibility. Each moment of connection with Claire reinforced a burgeoning belief in her own capabilities. But in the back of her mind lingered a thought sharp as glass: this meeting had merely peeled back the surface. The unexplored depths of her past, intertwined with the legacy Claire left behind, beckoned. What truths lay hidden there? And more audaciously, could Lucy truly integrate her past with her present, forging a new path forward, or would attempting to tread this line unravel everything? Lucy left the cafe, her head buzzing with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. Claire's words echoed relentlessly in her mind, tugging at her resolve like an unrelenting tide: prove this vision is sustainable. Walking back to her apartment, Lucy wrestled with the implications of that challenge. The path ahead was no longer just a personal journey, it had transformed into a test of her ability to articulate and guard her ambitions. The stakes had risen, and she felt the heat of accountability snap at her heels. Arriving home, she sank onto her worn-out couch, reflecting on the discussion. Claire saw potential in her, but potential without a plan was like a ship adrift. What did sustainability mean in her context? She needed to grasp the intricacies of her proposed programs, who they would serve, how they would operate, and how success would be measured. With a burst of determination, Lucy grabbed her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She started drafting a proposal, outlining clear objectives and strategies. It felt invigorating to put her ideas into tangible form. First, she listed key demographics: young adults facing barriers to employment. Then, she identified essential skills: communication, technical proficiency, and critical thinking that would empower them. As she worked, doubt flickered like a faulty light bulb. Could she truly create something impactful? She recalled the faces of friends who had slipped into resignation after years of fruitless job searching. They were not just statistics, they were people with dreams doused by despair. Her heart clenched. How could she convince them that change was possible? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows across the room while Lucy continued to type. She was surprised to find herself enjoying the process. It felt like she was knitting together fragments of hope into something coherent. Yet, with clarity came the biting edge of reality. She would face resistance. She could already envision the questions and criticisms from those who deemed her unqualified. The next day, Lucy decided to reach out to a local organization that shared her vision. If she could forge an alliance, she would gain tangible experience while also validating her concept. She crafted a succinct email outlining her objectives and aspirations, hoping to engage someone who would see the value in her efforts. That evening, she caught herself pacing. The waiting game was nerve-wracking. Was it too ambitious? Would they even respond? Caught in a labyrinth of what-ifs, she took a deep breath, attempting to quell the swirl of apprehension. Through the noise, she could hear Thomas's voice softly reminding her of the importance of authenticity. She had to give herself permission to be vulnerable, to show that she was not just a businesswoman, but a person who genuinely cared about helping others. Rejuvenated, Lucy began to write in her journal, documenting her thoughts and fears alongside her aspirations. The act of writing allowed her insecurities to surface and be confronted head-on, building a clearer sense of her values. Days passed in anticipation, but her persistence began to yield fruit. The local organization replied, expressing interest in her proposal and inviting her for a discussion. Excitement ignited her spirit. This was it. She was stepping further out of her comfort zone. Standing before the mirror, she put on a professional facade, reminding herself of the journey she had undertaken. She was no longer simply the girl uncertain of her place, she was becoming a woman who was prepared to challenge conventions. As she headed out, an unexpected pang gripped her heart. What would this meeting unearth? Perhaps the scrutiny was not just external, perhaps the most significant scrutiny would come from within. Would she confront the shadows of her past that still lingered? Or would she allow them to dictate her worth? And as the door closed behind her, the air felt not just thick with possibility but laden with the weight of decisions yet to be made. Could Lucy face the history that shaped her? Would she emerge as the person she aspired to be, or would the remnants of self-doubt echo louder than her resolve? The impending meeting loomed, a portal to both revelation and risk. Lucy took a deep breath as she stepped into the building where the meeting was to take place. The polished floors and sleek lines of the architecture felt foreign, an uncomfortable reminder of the world she had navigated. It was as if she were an imposter amidst the high-stakes professionals, but she brushed the thought aside. No more hiding. Today was about ownership. Sitting in the waiting area, she fidgeted with her hands, her mind racing through an array of scenarios. Would they see the passion in her proposal? Would they recognize her intent to effect real change? The deeper question, however, lingered: would she believe in her own vision? Soon, a tall woman in a blazer emerged, her confident stride commanding attention. Lucy recognized her as Sarah, the head of the organization. They exchanged pleasantries, and Lucy felt the weight of expectations bear down on her shoulders. As they entered a conference room, Sarah offered her a seat at the long, glass table. Lucy's heart raced. This was no ordinary meeting, it was a pivotal moment. "Thank you for reaching out, Lucy," Sarah began, her tone balancing professionalism with warmth. "I was intrigued by your email. I'd like to hear more about your vision." Lucy swallowed hard, her pulse quickening. She launched into her presentation, layering her passion for the project amid structured data and anecdotes illustrating the need for her program. The confidence she thought she had mustered began to wane as she sensed their skepticism. How could she encapsulate her desire to help in a way that wouldn't be dismissed as naive idealism? Midway through, Lucy caught Sarah's furrowed brow, and the unspoken critique weighed heavily on her. This was not the reaction she had hoped for. Time felt slowed to a crawl. Lucy could almost hear the ticking clock emphasizing her uncertainty. "Your statistics are compelling," Sarah said, interrupting Lucy's train of thought. "But I need to know what makes you qualified to lead this initiative. What will you do when faced with challenges?" The challenge resonated like a siren, summoning Lucy to a confrontation with her insecurities she had dodged for far too long. The truth wrapped around her like a vice. She was not just challenging the audience, she was confronting herself. Did she have what it took to push through barriers, to cultivate resilience? "I may not have formal credentials or credentials of a seasoned professional," Lucy began, feeling her voice strengthen as she spoke, "but I carry the weight of lived experience. I understand what it feels like to wrestle with self-doubt and to watch dreams slip through your fingers. This isn't just a project, it's a lifeline. I have experienced the frustration of unemployment firsthand. I've felt the weight of stagnation. It's a dark place." The air shifted in the room as she spoke from a place of authenticity. Sarah's eyes widened, and Lucy noticed her posture relaxing slightly, as if she were reassessing the scope of the discussion. "Your passion is evident," Sarah said, now leaning forward, intrigued. "But can that passion withstand the scrutiny of reality? There will be setbacks, likely more than you anticipate. How can you prepare for that?" Lucy hesitated, wrestling with the gravity of Sarah's question. It struck to the core of her resolve. A blend of insecurity and determination roiled within her. The anticipation of failure gnawed at her, yet she felt emboldened in that moment. "I believe in building a support network. I understand the importance of community, mentorship, and feedback. I would keep lines of communication open for participants to share their stories and struggles. Vulnerability breeds resilience, and we need to enable others to navigate through challenges together." The dialogue shifted toward strategy, infrastructure, and real-world applications as Lucy's confidence resurfaced. Each point she articulated felt like a quiet realization of her own capability. She was shaping a narrative not just for those she aimed to assist but for herself. As they concluded the meeting, Lucy's mind stirred with a mixture of hope and apprehension. If she could engage in this conversation of vulnerability, what else could she uncover about herself? She left the conference room, hearing Sarah thank her for the vision she presented, but that glimmer of self-doubt bubbled underneath. She had taken a step forward, but what awaited her as she further ventured into this realm? Would she be able to sustain the energy of this newfound commitment, or would she slip back into her old habits? With those questions echoing in her mind as she walked down the hall, one thought crystallized: this meeting had marked a turning point, but not just for her proposal. The challenge ahead loomed larger, asking not only what she could offer others but what she was willing to reclaim for herself. Lucy stepped outside, and the crisp air filled her lungs. A fresh beginning, but there would be sacrifices. Who would Lucy have to become to be successful? The answer awaited her just out of view, but she could nearly touch it. The streets buzzed with energy as Lucy walked, but her mind was a whirlpool of thoughts. The meeting with Sarah had flickered a spark of hope, yet it also confirmed the shadows of her self-doubt. Every step seemed weighted by the expectation of success. What if she fell short? As she reached a cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted toward her. She hesitated, suddenly unsure if she had the right to indulge in a moment of comfort. A part of her wanted to retreat into familiar routines, to return to the safety of her old life where dreams didn't carry the burden of reality. But she refused to fold. Today was about ownership, not avoidance. She ordered a black coffee, the bitter flavor matching her current mindset, and took a seat at a corner table. Sipping slowly, she grabbed her notebook, filled with scrawled ideas and half-formed plans. Glancing around, she observed the other patrons immersed in their own worlds, and a thought struck her. Everyone was journeying through their struggles, masked behind smiles or focused expressions. Lucy opened her notebook to a blank page. It was time to filter her ideas, start crafting a plan that was as sturdy as it was idealistic. How can I structure this vision? She whispered to herself, pen poised. The session quickly turned into a brainstorming hour. She jotted down everything, letting the words spill out. She reflected on her lived experience. This was the bedrock of her proposal. Instead of shying away from her background, it was vital she framed it as an asset. Those moments of despair didn't diminish her, they carved strength into her character. As she began outlining specific steps for the program, self-doubt tried to seep back in. What would make her different from others who had failed? How would she ensure the sustainability of her vision? Her pen scratched against the paper, the sound grounding her. I must focus on what sets me apart. My narrative is unique, and it resonates with those I aim to help. She knew she would continue to face skepticism. Sarah's challenge echoed in her thoughts, but Lucy understood that every inquiry into her credentials could also serve as a stepping stone towards self-empowerment. Returning to her notes, Lucy drafted a strategy focusing on 3 pillars: community engagement, mentorship, and shared vulnerability. A plan began to take shape. I can create a structure to foster resilience, she noted, her thoughts racing. Not only are those tenets vital for others, they will guide me on my journey as well. Fueled by caffeine and a growing sense of purpose, Lucy's strategy morphed into a cohesive vision, one that didn't shy away from obstacles but embraced them as vital learning experiences. What remained was the most challenging aspect: believing that she was capable of executing this plan. As the afternoon light waned, she took a moment to reflect. Could she truly embrace this new identity? Would stepping into this role transform her fears into a source of energy? She had begun to peel back layers to reveal her authentic self, but the conviction needed to lead also required confronting deeper aspects of her identity. Leaving the cafe, she felt lighter, though still shadowed by uncertainty. The journey ahead might push her beyond her limits, but these were the growing pains of personal development. Complacency had never brought growth, it had only led to stagnation. As she made her way home, a name flickered in her mind: Evelyn. Lucy had encountered her in a networking group, a high-powered mentor whose experience could be a beacon amidst her shadowed doubts. Would reaching out to her serve as a catalyst for the changes Lucy sought, or would it illuminate her insecurities further? The distance between her home and the door felt insurmountable. What would it mean to embrace mentorship, to openly invite guidance into her life? And so, as she stood before her door, she paused, contemplating her next move. The urge to retreat mingled with an electric desire for growth, leaving her teetering on the brink of an essential decision. Tomorrow, she would reach out. Today, she had given herself permission to grow, but the next chapter awaited her in the form of a conversation that could pivot her path into the unknown. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows as Lucy stepped into her apartment, the familiar chill of indecision wrapping around her. She tossed her bag onto the couch and sank into the comfort of her favorite armchair. The moment was a fragile stillness before a storm, as she reflected on the impending call with Evelyn. She had crafted her message in her mind countless times, but how could she possibly communicate the gravity of her aspirations without sounding naive? After a few moments of silence, she grabbed her phone, hands shaking slightly. The fear of rejection clawed at her resolve. What if Evelyn dismissed her goals as fanciful whims? Would she judge her for the lack of experience on her resume? No, Lucy reminded herself. If she had learned anything today, it was that she had to own her narrative, every chapter of it, including the doubts intertwined with ambition. As she opened her contact list, the screen glinted with Evelyn's name, a beacon in the murk of uncertainty. Lucy raised the phone to her ear, breathing deeply, but just before she pressed call, her mind swirled with worst-case scenarios. What if Evelyn asked her hard questions? What if she uncovered Lucy's insecurities, revealing the messy underbelly of her passion? But then, a flicker of clarity emerged. What if, in that conversation, she discovered something about herself. What if Evelyn's insights could help unearth the deeper truths lurking beneath her self-doubt? This wasn't merely about seeking validation, it was a potential gateway to understanding her capabilities and honing them. With determination swelling within her, she finally pressed the button and closed her eyes, preparing herself. "Evelyn, I hope I'm not interrupting," she began, her voice steadying with each syllable. The conversation unfolded, and Lucy found herself articulating her dreams and fears to a woman whose experience and success resonated deeply. As she spoke, she sensed shifting dynamics. The excitement in her voice began to drown out the self-criticism simmering in her mind. Evelyn listened intently, and her encouragement felt like an anchor in a stormy sea. But with every insight Evelyn offered, Lucy identified a lurking truth within herself, a yearning for authenticity and courage that had long felt suppressed. She realized that she could not just rely on mentorship, she also had to embrace the uncomfortable act of vulnerability. It's in those raw moments that real growth lives. Allowing her fears to color her aspirations did nothing but lock her in a cage of mediocrity. "Lucy, every leader has had their share of doubt," Evelyn said, her voice calm yet powerful. "What matters is not the absence of fear, but how you choose to confront it. Trust in your journey." The words ignited something within Lucy, a realization that her vulnerability did not signify weakness but rather a profound strength intertwined with resilience and authenticity. Their talk continued, shifting from Lucy's specific ideas to broader strategies that could fuel her vision. Each time Evelyn acknowledged her potential, hope surged within her. It was not just about the program, it was about the person she was becoming. Lucy began to explore her own experiences, allowed herself to see the lessons they held, realizing that facing her fears would have to become a part of her practice. The emphasis on shared vulnerability stirred a passion in her she hadn't accessed before. She had the power to transform her past struggles into tools for growth and empathy. As the conversation reached its end, Lucy felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The path ahead seemed clearer now, a winding stretch of uncharted territory. She had tapped into the strengths within her, aware that she needed to pace herself as she developed her vision into reality, but even as she hung up the phone, doubt lurked. She could feel it inching back, whispering reminders of how high the stakes felt. Would she be able to balance her newfound insights with the reality of executing her ambitions? The night deepened around her, and Lucy etched Evelyn's advice into her memory, reminding herself that this was only the beginning. What would her first step be, and how would she integrate this mentor's wisdom into her own evolving narrative? What challenges awaited her, and more importantly, how would she face them without retreating into old habits? Deciding to write down her thoughts, she opened her notebook, but instead of drafting plans, she began to list her fears, acknowledging them as part of her reality, but not the entirety of it. Each word felt like a brick paving the path to her next journey, laying the groundwork for the resilience she needed to nurture, and as she filled the pages, the urgency loomed. Tomorrow would demand action, but tonight was for reflection, and a question resonated deeply within her: could she harness the strength of her fears, forging them into a powerful catalyst for her personal development? The morning sun poured through the window, illuminating Lucy's small apartment with a golden hue. As she sipped her black coffee, the warmth of the cup steadied her nerves. Today was the day she would present her plan to the local organization, transforming a nebulous dream into a concrete reality. She had meticulously crafted her proposal, embedding authentic elements of her journey into the very fabric of her vision. As she reviewed her notes, a surge of determination coursed through her. In the past, self-doubt would have corroded her confidence, but not today. Lucy had learned to embrace vulnerability. It was no longer a weakness but a testament to her journey. Each time she faced fear, she found strength. She had come to understand that her lived experiences were not barriers, but bridges. Today, she wouldn't just present ideas, she would present herself. When she arrived at the venue, the bustling atmosphere throbbed with potential. Her heartbeat quickened as she took a deep breath, grounding herself in the quiet confidence she had cultivated over the past weeks. Approaching the conference room, she recalled Evelyn's words: "Trust in your journey." The room was filled with professionals, individuals whose accolades she had once regarded with envy. But today felt different. Today, she walked in as an equal. When it was time for her presentation, the initial wave of nerves settled into a steady resolve. "Thank you for allowing me to share my vision," she began, her voice steady and clear. "What I am proposing is not merely a service, it's a lifeline that empowers individuals to reclaim their futures." As she laid out her plan, her confidence crescendoed. She spoke passionately about building workshops that fostered skill development, shared vulnerability, and community mentorship, pulling from her own experiences as both a motivator and a participant. Lucy felt the room respond a shift in energy, as someone reflected on her authenticity and grace under the vast pressure. As she sailed through her presentation, she acknowledged her past struggles, transforming them into motivating anecdotes. It was a declaration that while she did not have all the answers, her determination and willingness to learn would guide her. After a stream of questions, she found herself in a moment of reflection. Despite the challenges that lay ahead, she felt recognized, her aspirations validated by nods and expressions of interest. The organization's director eventually turned to her with a smile that wrapped Lucy in warmth. "Your passion is infectious, Lucy. We want to help make this happen. Let us work on actionable steps together to ensure sustainability for your program." Joy coursed through her veins. It was validation beyond her expectations. This was not just personal achievement, this was formal recognition of everything she had poured into her dreams. The exhilaration could have consumed her, but she caught herself. She understood now that this was the greatest step, but not the final destination. The beauty of mentorship lay in its reciprocity. She felt a new commitment to help others just as she had been helped. Days turned into weeks as she leaned into the collaborative effort with the organization, implementing her program, and one workshop after another began capturing the essence of shared experiences. Lucy poured herself into each session, witnessing the transformative potential that blossomed when individuals believed in their capabilities. Her initiative wasn't about fixing problems, it was about equipping others with the tools to forge their paths. Every triumph, no matter how small, reinforced her newfound confidence. With each workshop that launched successfully and with each story of personal growth shared among the community, Lucy established her footing in both her personal aspirations and professional landscape. Her spirit resonated with a profound understanding of empowerment as an ongoing journey, not a destination. Returning to the shelter where her initial dream had ignited, Lucy stood at the front again, but this time as a mentor. The dynamic had shifted. She was no longer the girl caught in doubt, she was a woman standing with purpose, ready to inspire the next generation. As she addressed her audience, her voice was filled with solid confidence and a warmth that resonated beyond mere words. "We can choose to be the light," Lucy affirmed. "You are not alone in your struggles. Together, we can achieve what seems impossible." The sense of belonging enveloped her. These were her people, her community. This was the legacy she intended to forge, illuminated by the very doubts that had once threatened to suffocate her dreams. As her journey continued, Lucy's path recalibrated, a constant reminder that personal growth is infinite. Each challenge ahead became an opportunity, each setback a lesson. In that first moment of vulnerability back in the common room, she had taken a step toward herself, setting off a series of transformations that would resonate through the lives of others. With a heart full of gratitude and fierce resolve, Lucy had not only proved her capacity to inspire change around her but had ultimately achieved self-recognition and fulfillment. Her light now a beacon for everyone willing to see their strength. Now is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Lucy's incredible journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Your engagement fuels our mission to share powerful stories of personal growth.